So, Melanie, good to see you. I'm just prospecting. And instead of doing a huge mailing, what I'm looking at is just picking off individual properties that make sense. And a good tool for that is PropStream. And I put in Pensacola on the top left here, and here are the filters. They're here and they're here. So you can see under property detail, I just clicked vacant land. And then I'm adding some filters. So when I go to property details, I put in the size lot that I want. And again, the more filters, the smaller the list gets. So my next one was I went to MLS, and it says MLS status, and you can click here, show all. And when I did, I said, show me the ones that were on the MLS, and they failed. And here it says days on the market. So I put a minimum of 60. I don't want someone that's had it on the market for 1 day. People that have tried to sell and they have a little bit of pain. And then I'm going to go to ownership information, and I can go ahead and search individuals out of state. I put in here years of ownership, 5 years, but let's go ahead and change it to they've owned it for at least 10. And now that I've got 80 people that have had the property for 10 years or longer, they tried to sell it on the multiple listing and it failed. And as I went through these, there's one that I clicked on this today. And when I clicked on it, I've talked to Dago Bierto here before, but he's owned it for 18 years. It is approximately, Jesse's just messaging me that has Pebble, but he bought this property for $12,500 years and years ago. But when I click on the MLS details, I can see he tried to sell this up until March, and it was on the market for 90 days, and he tried to sell it for $29,500. This guy has not been able to sell his property, but I can see his listing histories. 3 years ago, he tried to sell for $15,000, and I can just follow the history here. He's just had no success whatsoever. But if I was going to go ahead and do it, then I take the address here and I go to put it in the appraiser's website to do a little work on the property. And here it's at the end of a cul-de-sac. It looks pretty good. And I can see it's assessed at $15,000. I'm going to click on his tax history here, and you can see this guy is chronically delinquent on his taxes. So he's behind right now.
So how would you figure out, like you would go in each and every one of them to figure out what you would offer for that type of property?
Yeah, if I'm going to do laser focused, if I do a mailing, I'm just sending out a letter, not necessarily with the price in it, just saying we're interested in buy it, call me. Or I can send out a letter with the price in it. And there's a way to price 1,000 very quickly in 2 minutes. But if I'm doing it one at a time and I'm going to make an offer, I have to know what I can sell this for. Well, he hasn't been able to sell it for $29,500. So I know that's not it. And I know here's the history right here. Tried to sell it for $15,000 3 years ago. But then I go to the appraiser website and do my work. So when it's laser focused, it may take 5 or 10 minutes per property to see if the ones we want to laser focus on even make sense. So I pulled up his taxes, and I can see his tax history and all these ones that say certificate. Look, going back, when there's a certificate, that means he's at least about a year behind, and he's behind again. And so as I continue to go through it on the appraiser website, now I have to figure out what do I think I can sell it for. But the other thing I want to do, I'm just going to copy this. Since I've actually been by this property, but I just go to Google Earth, put the property in there and look at it and see what the street looks like. And here's a street. It's very nice. And this is his lot right there. So a builder could easily come in there and clean that up. But what I also noticed here.
You mean where the trees are?
Yeah, that's his lot.
Isn't it like $15,000 to remove trees though on a lot?
It depends. I'm not going to remove them. I'm not going to do that. But when I'm talking to him, I'd say the lot needs to be cleared. That's going to cost approximately $15,000. But the other thing I can see is there's a sewer right there. So I know it's going to need a sewer. So it's going to cost $5,000 to hook up versus a septic that's going to be $15,000 to $20,000 or more. So now I'm just doing my due diligence, and I'm going to look for sales, and I'm not going to go into the whole appraisal, and there's another issue with the lot, which I'll show you. So I'm going to go into wetlands. I'm going to get rid of this overlay here.
And how do you check for like slopes and stuff like that?
There's a tool called Land ID that will help you with that. But also, I'm not sure if I have topography on here. But another thing you can look at is right here, it's pretty level. So that's a way. It doesn't mean that this one doesn't significantly drop off. So the guy, and he also lives in New York. His mail's in New York. He's behind on the taxes. It's in New York. He's been behind on the taxes since he bought it for $12,500. So now I need to look for comparables, and I can use PropStream to do that. I can go right here on this interactive map here.
Could also use price, right? I'm still in their free trial right now.
Yeah, I haven't used price for a while, so you're probably a better expert at it than I am.
I'm really not. I just used it to pull the county list and to try to figure out what county I want to do.
Another thing I can do right here is look for vacant sales. And I'm just going to go back as far as it'll let me. It's going to let me go back about 7 years and see if anything comes up.
And this is in.
This is this is the appraiser's website.
Okay.
So I went to PropStream, but I can see here's a couple of lots that sold right here, and it says $20,000 and $20,000. There's 2 lots, but what probably happened, someone paid $20,000 for both those. But if I want to check, there's a few ways to do it, but I can click on one of these lots. And as I'm doing it, I can see Marcus Helfin bought it, and I click on this one. Marcus Helfin bought it, but now I'm pulling up the record, and in the record where he bought it for $20,000, there's a document here. And again, all counties are going to be different, but when I click on this document, it's probably going to have 2 properties on it that was $20,000 was paid for. It probably wasn't $20,000 each. So as I open this up, here's the document. And in this one, it included, here's the parcel ID number, just 015002. And I'm going to go to the other one. And pull up the document. So I'm trying to find, did he pay $20,000 for both, or did he pay $20,000 each?
Okay, I have a question. If, let's say you reach out to him and he doesn't want to sell one of the and there's 2 properties and he doesn't want to sell one of them, but let's say it's one big property and he doesn't want to sell the whole thing. Could you offer him partial to
The property that we want is just one property. It's just this one.
No, I understand, but I'm saying, like, let's say there's a property and it's, let's say, a 2-acre property somebody owns, but they don't want to sell it. They don't want to sell the whole thing. Could you offer, if you find out if it can be subdivided, could you offer to maybe offer for part of the property instead of the whole thing if they don't think
Yeah, but it would have
that
to
you're offering enough?
It would have to be subdivided before you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would have to do additional research if this guy paid $20,000 each, or if he paid $20,000 for both of them. That affects my offer. And
Okay.
I'm trying to figure that out.
Isn't it on the,
That's what I'm looking for right now, is when I went to this property here, this is the subject property, but now I'm going to the comp. This is the comparable. And here, I'm trying to find out, did he pay $20,000 for one, or did he pay $20,000 for both? And I'm not sure yet. So I click on the copy of the actual document. And typically, if it was for two, there would be two numbers here. I'm still trying to determine if this is for one property or both. I don't know. And usually if it's for both, it would say parcel ID and there'd be one. And right below it, it'd say parcel ID and there would be another one. So
Is there a way you can look it up in PropStream and find out?
No, this is where I usually do it. I'm still working on it. I need another minute.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure it out. Let me shut some of these windows. I don't know. Usually it's very easy. This one's a little bit more complicated. I'm not sure. But my guess is this guy paid 20,000 for both. And either that or I could call him and ask him, call and find out. At this point, I just don't know. It's not clear. And see, his property is assessed at 27,000 and ours is assessed at 15. I'll show you a challenge with ours now. So I went back to ours and I'm going to click on these different categories here. I'm going to get rid of the overlay. And so it's going to take me an additional phone call and I'll show you why. So I'm going to click on wetlands and there aren't any, because if there were some, and when this map loads, you'll see all this blue, this is all wetlands. Ours doesn't have any. But
And is that the GIS?
This is a GIS. It's built right into the appraiser's website. Some appraiser's website, it's built in, and some you'll have to go to the GIS link, or there's another tool called Land ID. It's $7 a month. But watch when I click on easements, because I remember there was a problem with this property. Now, when I clicked on easements, see this right here? The blue?
Yeah.
Somebody has an easement. So as I was doing my due diligence, I may have to call the planning and zoning or someone, or I could call the seller and say, I see there's an easement there. Can you tell me about it? Because maybe this part's not buildable. And if it is, that would affect the value. So my offer would be a lot lower. And the guy, this one here and this one here, this is the one the guy paid 20,000 for one or both. His doesn't have any easements. And I'm going to go ahead and load this map here.
And an easement is
And
just access to the property?
I don't know what that easement is. I don't know. The computer doesn't tell me. I'm going to have to call. But as you see here, see that house there?
Yeah.
Could I fit that house right here? Probably. Maybe that easement's not an issue.
That would be scrunching it in there, I think, though.
Gordon.
Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. We're prospecting. Instead of the shotgun approach, we're doing the laser approach. So with Melanie here, and I was playing around about 45 minutes ago, I just went in, searched for expired MLS listings that have been on the market for 60 or 90 days or longer. And I'm trying to find ones out of these 80, which ones I can make offers for. So I just got to the second one here, Sussex. And when I did, I can see that Dagobierto Riviera owns it. And I've talked to this guy probably 3 or 4 years ago, and we're just going through our process. So as I went through, he did try to sell it on the MLS here. And I can see he tried to sell it for $30,000 back in March, about a year ago. And so then as we got on there, I'm thinking it looks good, but I can see his listing history. And 3 years ago, he tried to sell it for $15,000. So as we went and started just doing due diligence, and as I get too many windows open here, I looked at his tax history right here. And I'm doing some laser approaches where I'm just finding specific properties and making offers. I could probably make 3 or 4 offers today. But as you look at his tax history, going back as far as this goes back, it's getting ready to go to tax deed sale every year. And he's behind again. He lives in New York. So then we started looking at the property and looking at comps. And I found that I haven't been able to figure it out yet, but this lot here and this lot here, they sold for $20,000. And I haven't figured out yet if they sold for $20,000 each or $20,000 combined. The deed is just not real clear. So I would need to do additional research. But as I continued, let me go ahead and shut some of these. Here's this lot here. And when I clicked easements, I have this right here. And I'm thinking, what is that? And I can't figure that out on the computer. But as I zoomed in a little bit, I can see this house here. And I'm thinking, or this house here, would that potentially be able to fit a house right here? So I'm really just trying to figure out the value. And if it looks like one that I want to do, then I would just go ahead and I would skip trace them using that cyber background checks or IDI core and just make an offer. And if he says no, what's going to happen when his taxes are due again? At some point, this guy's just going to throw in the towel. So I would probably offer him, he paid $12,900 for it. I don't know, $12,500 for it 18 years ago. I'd probably offer him $10,000.
Yep. Nice round number.
Yeah, 10,000. And if he says no, I'll call him in 3 months. I'll offer him $10,000. If he says no, I'll call him November when he gets his tax bill. And a percentage of those are going to convert. But it's just, and I mail out the 1,000 letters of the 2,000, but sometimes I don't want to spend $700 or $1,400. And I can have my laptop here, sit in front of the TV, and I'm just prospecting. So as I went back to the filters, it was basically, I put in the property size, I put in the MLS information. They'd owned it for at least 10 years, been on the market for a minimum of 60 days, and I can change that. Let's see what else we did. A minimum of 10 years. And when I did that, I just came up with these 80, and I could just go through them pretty quickly. It may take to get through the 80. Some of them I'll just click on and say, I don't want that one. So we'll just click on it and see it's all woods and maybe it doesn't have any roads or anything. And I move on to the next one. So probably to get through these would take me, I don't know, 2 hours. But if I'm sitting in front of the TV, wasting time anyway, I could go ahead and maybe come up with 3 or 4. And as you look at this one here, watch this one. These are lots that I wouldn't take if they gave them to me. The developer tried to develop the subdivision, never put the roads in. I don't know if these people paid for it. See if I come back here. We'll see if we can look it up and see what they paid for it. 4528 Condado. But if someone gave me that for $500, I wouldn't take it.
It's one of those Punta Gorda type lots.
Yeah, but you can see someone paid $6,000 for it 18 years ago. Someone paid 45. This is probably the original buyer, $4,500 for it. What's that, 40 years ago? Maybe I'd pay $500 for it. I don't know. But as I'm prospecting, I'd probably walk from this because this will probably never get developed. I don't know. Maybe a developer will come in, but you'd have to try to buy all the individual lots. But typically what happens with these, and look at the MLS details. They're trying to sell this for $7,500. It was on the market for a year. It's just going to sit there. And as I'm just prospecting, and that's what I'm doing. And that's one reason I like to know an area, because I just look at that. I said, oh, that's in that area. There's no roads. But just going here, clicking on the picture real quick. Same thing.
I think I lost your audio, Michael.
Oh. Can you hear me?
I lost your audio somehow.
I can hear you.
I'm not sure why.
I think it's you.
Oh.
Are you there?
Yeah, now I can hear you again.
Okay. Anyway, I'm just prospecting. I love prospecting because I go through here and all of a sudden I find one. I say, oh, this is a good one. And then it's just a matter of going to the appraiser website, trying to figure out what it's worth. Are there easements, wetlands, flood zones? Maybe I use IDI core, find out their situation and make them an offer. And if they say no, Dagoberto Riviera, at some point, the guy's going to just throw in the towel and take $10,000. And then I'd try to turn around and sell to the guy that paid $20,000 for the one next door.
Would you say it's a good rule of thumb to follow up every 3 months on everyone that says no?
I don't know. I'd probably follow up 3 or 4 times a year because ideally what's going to happen is they may get letters from other people or other calls. But if I'm the one that's in their mind, I don't want to overdo it. But if I'm the one that's in their mind and they're ready, I've built a little bit of rapport with them. Maybe you have a smaller list and it's 200 people. And so 200 people and you're going to follow up once every 90 days. It's following up with 2 people a day. It's just a phone call or an email or a text. It's not going to take a lot of time. And out of those, like the one we were looking at, he's going to throw in the towel at some point. Maybe you've got 200 people on your list and 10% of them throw in the towel after a year. That could be 20 deals. And
Yeah, that's substantial.
it's a smaller list. It's a different approach. Some people, there's an instructor, she has her students mail out 7,000 letters a month. Well, that's $5,000 a month. And I think that's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, most people can't. I'm not doing that. I love just prospecting. Another way to prospect could be the properties that are going to tax deed sales. And so I just go out to March. These people redeemed it. But you can see usually the lower price ones are land. The lower delinquencies are more. One with $98,000 in back taxes is not going to be a vacant parcel likely. But even if they redeemed it, I can just prospect and find people that redeemed. And this guy had to write a check for $2,800. Maybe that's painful. And so I can just click on the property and see, is this a good one to prospect? And maybe.
Now, you said Louise, didn't you say Louise put that list together for you?
We put the list together. Here's how we did it. We went through, it was manual process. We went back 10 years and we went forward 7 or 8 months. And if I go to April, it doesn't tell me if it's vacant land or not. So what we had to do, if it's a lower dollar amount, like $2,000 or $3,000, many times it is vacant land. That's one way. Or over here on the right-hand column, if like this one says no address. No address probably means it's vacant land. Or if the post office hasn't assigned an address, I'll see if I can find one here.
It says the 999 or whatever.
Yeah, it's this one here. It says the 1200 block. So that's a giveaway. That's land. So this one here, it was going to go to sale in April, and they just paid $2,600. And then I could prospect and look at it and say, oh my goodness, Catherine Grant lives in Chicago. And she's always falling behind on her taxes. So I can look at the tax history here. It may show it and it may not. And so now as I'm prospecting, this one says go forward. She just paid $2,600. She was going to lose it. She lives in Chicago. It's not showing the tax history because it was going to tax deed sale. And here's Catherine Grant. And typically here's the sales history of the property here. Here it doesn't have any. She's probably owned this thing for 50 years. So here's the property again. I can see it's got street access. And then I'm just doing my due diligence to see if my prospecting says go forward. So I can Google Earth it. I can see what the street looks like. I can go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this overlay, but I can look for wetlands, which is a consideration. I can look for flood zones. I can go ahead and look for sales, vacant sales. And here, let's see. Here's one that's a little similar to hers, a little bit wider. It just sold for 16.5 in 2024, right there. And so it's assessed at 6,000, but what's to say I can't call her up? Here's one that sold for 10. This one sold for 17 and resold for 25 right there. It's bigger. Here's one that sold for 25. So I would do a little bit more homework on the value, but if I go back to hers and I can see it's assessed at $6,000, which is really low. Just my guess is it's probably worth 15. But why can't I just go ahead and skip trace Catherine Grant, call her and have a discussion and make her an offer?
Right, because what she paid for it or whatever is a lot lower than what everything is going for, it looks
Yeah.
like.
And the other thing that happened was she just wrote a check for, we were way down here somewhere. She just wrote a check for $2,600.
Yikes.
She redeemed it, but she just wrote a check for $2,600. And if I call her, all she can do is say no. And so just I do a little bit more homework on the value and what have you, but very quickly, and we looked at the comps very quickly wherever they went. Here, this one here just sold for, I don't know, 16.5, and I can go ahead and try to get some information on this one. And I don't know what A-Trail Systems is, but they just bought this for 16,500. Click on a few other ones. Click here. Here's Vision Development right here. This is probably a builder. And I can see that they paid $19,500 for this lot. It's bigger than ours. It's right a couple blocks away. And back to Catherine.
But then they quit claimed it, right?
No, this is a death certificate. So when they bought it, this might show a death certificate here. It just says affidavit. I'm not sure what that affidavit of death certificate, but it was just cleaning up the title. There was probably an issue with the title.
Oh, okay.
But the guy that paid the $19,000 still owns it right here.
Okay.
So that's getting back just to the prospecting. And I love doing I'll do a mail, we'll do follow up, but now just from doing this quickly, here's Dago Bierto here. And then we found going to the tax deed sales, prospecting in a different place.
So when I get ready to make an offer, could you maybe walk me through the first couple to make sure I do it right?
That's actually what this session is called. It's called Deal Lab. So you bring it. We're going to go through exactly what I'm going through now. We're going to try to determine the value the best we can. And we can use the appraiser records. We can use PropStream. You know, if we need to, we can talk to realtors in the area. Sometimes some properties, there aren't any good comps. So we may need to talk to a realtor that's familiar with the area. Gordon.
Yes. Hello, hello.
I hear you. I don't see you.
Sorry, I'm in my car.
Oh, I thought I could see that.
On the phone. On my iPhone. It's tough to
Yeah.
do
But
stuff.
anyway, so we're just prospecting. We found another one. I just went to the tax deed sales. I think we went to April and we were just looking for vacant land. And we found Catherine Grant, who lives in Chicago. She just paid $2,600 to get it out of going to tax deed sale. There's no sales history of the property, so I'm guessing she's owned it for 40 or 50 years or longer. It's assessed at 6,000. We have a comp that's at 19,000. That's a little bit larger. And I would do a little bit more homework determining the value. And then I would just skip tracer and call her up and make her an offer. And if Catherine Grant says no, she might be nice. She might be not living any longer. And then I would, just depending on how the conversation would go, I'd put it in some sort of system. It could be a pad of paper. It could be something like Pebble, and I would just follow up with her again in 3 months. And say we have 200 people that we laser focused on, and in a year, maybe we can convert 10% of them, or we can convert 5% of them just by following up every 3 months or so. If you had 200 and you converted 5%, that'd be 10 deals in a year.
That's a business.
Yeah. So with Catherine Grants, again, I get too many windows open here, but I'm just going to search her by her name. Catherine Grant. And here's her property. I sold a property here. It's in Cannon Place. I bought a property for $5,000, sold it to a builder for $12,900, and this was probably 4 years ago. But as I look at comps, it's assessed at $6,000. She just wrote a check. She just wrote a check for $2,600. Here's comps. This is a snapshot of comps. And here's one right here. It's a little bit wider right here. And this one just sold for $19,500 this year. Maybe to a builder. This one's $16,500. We had another one that was $19,500, but this one sold for $16,500 a year ago. It's assessed at $8,000, so it sold for double assessed value. If we go back to Catherine's, and it sold for double assessed value, say you sell it for $12,000 or $14,000, I'd probably offer her $6,000. There's one here. We'll see. I think I had another comp right here. Here's one here and here. This one sold for $29,000, wider than ours. Here's one not quite as wide, sold for $19,000. This one sold for $29,000. This one sold for $16,000. And some lower ones here. We want to be the guy that's buying them for the low amount. This one, it was vacant land. Now it's got a house on it. So we go here. You can see the lot sold 5 years ago for $9,500, and someone put a house on it. So we can look at the house, or what we can look at, the document, and see who the builder probably was. Habitat for Humanity. I've sold David 11 properties right here. So if we could buy Catherine's right here, I could probably turn around and sell it to David at Habitat for Humanity. So that's the laser process. Some people call it sniper. I choose laser, but they call it the shotgun approach or the sniper approach. But I love prospecting just when I'm sitting watching TV or whatever. And that's just an example of prospecting. And that was just two things. One was expired MLS, and the other one was the tax deed sales. So if I go to tax deed sales, I can prospect, all the way out to July, or I can go backwards and see who redeemed. Like here's one, 8100 block of Alger. These people redeemed it. But here's Lucille Hartley. She lives in Alabama. It's another one. It doesn't have a history here, but I would do the same thing. Just go ahead and do my homework. This one happens to be 5 acres. Do my due diligence on the property. She's let it go to tax deed sales. So she has some pain points, and do my due diligence on the property, skip tracer, and call her up and make her an offer. And here's her history here. Going to tax deed sale, tax deed sale, tax deed sale. It's chronic. So she just paid off 2023, I don't know, about 9 months ago. And 2024, she's behind again. So that would be an example. And if I had 200 of those, and I'm working people that have these situations, they're going to be more likely to sell than the guy that's owned it for 10 years. It's got great credit that maybe lives nearby. So it's fun. I love it. But if you guys, when you have a county we'll need to pull up prop stream, we'll need to pull up the appraiser's website. And if it's a county I haven't done, it typically takes me a half hour or an hour to get familiar with that county. And if you go here to week 2, I think week 2, here's samples of doing appraiser county search on Escambia County, and Hillsborough County has really good county information on their appraiser website.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
a lot of the Florida counties are pretty good because real estate's so prevalent down there.
Yeah, and as I went to Hillsborough, I bookmarked it some time ago, but it's got the tax collector's website. I can pull up the delinquent taxes. It's got the appraiser's website. I've got planning and zoning. I've got the recorder's office. So it has similar websites to Escambia County. And if you watch this video, I don't know how long it was, 20 minutes. It's just going to go through.
So again, going from left to right, go ahead and review.
But Hillsborough County is very good with information too. So I think it makes the process easier. So instead of sending out, building a list of people that own for 20 years or longer that live out of state, we focus to people that are further down the funnel. They may have those issues, but they've tried to sell it and they failed. Or like Dagoberto here, you look at his tax history, and if I continuously follow up with him, he's getting letters probably from other people, but he's probably not getting anyone like us that's following up on a regular basis. And look at this guy's history. When he tried to sell it recently for $30,000, tried to sell it 3 years ago for $15,000. And we're sitting there, and one of the mailings you can do with different software programs, Pebble has it, you can go ahead and mail him a letter with a picture of a check in it. It's not an official check, but it's your offer that looks exactly like a check. And so he gets his mail. It's basically like saying, hey, do you want $10,000? Here it is. I'm just here waiting for you. And at some point, he probably has all sorts of issues. And if I ran him through IDI Core, I could see, does he have bankruptcies, liens? Or I could put his name in the county recorder's website and see anything in the county that's recorded in his name. So we go to Rivera. So this is our advantage, is the information. And I'm not sure if he's still alive, but
You can go to find a grave.
yeah, here. And you can see he had a lien here. I'm not sure what that is. A homeowners association. Release of lien. Doing the laser approach, getting in there and prospecting. I love doing it because I'm just gold panning, but I'm in a good gold hole because I'm searching the right list. And I'm just going in there and there's maybe 20 nuggets, but maybe 3 of them are real gold. And that's what
What are some other ones that are super targeted I could go after that not a lot of people are going after?
I would do the expired MLS and the tax deed sales. Those would be 2 near the top. The third one, but it's a lot larger list, is back taxes. And I think Hillsborough County has the same tax list research. And so I can go here and pull a list of all unpaid accounts, and there's going to be a lot because the tax bills just came out. But there's a technique. There's 44,000. It doesn't show me if they're vacant land or not. So I have to pull 2 lists. This list here that has an account number, and then the vacant land list that has an account number. And I have 2 spreadsheets. You could probably put it into Chat GPT and say, merge the 2 spreadsheets and show me the properties, the account number that's on both lists. Now I have a list of delinquent taxes that's vacant land.
And that $100 list,
It works in some counties.
how would you though decipher between what you were showing me earlier, you said this builder or somebody had died, but this person still owns it. But how would we determine whether what's what?
I did here, there's a few ways. And it's not perfect, but I'm just going to put in a state of, and let's see what comes up. And there weren't a lot here. Let me go back to a specific record. Just any record. So here, we'll see where it says Invest for You LLC.
Mhm.
Let's say it said Jim West, and it says estate of. That means he's deceased, and where
Right.
the mail is, it says CO. The mail's going to an heir. The property is in the deceased person's name. The mail's going to an heir. So now the property is going to have to go through probate. But many times it's more complicated. I probably wouldn't start there. It's more complicated because now it's going to have to go through probate, and the person that's getting the mail doesn't want to pay for the probate, and I don't want to pay for the probate. But in our library, we had Alan Nicoletti, that's a probate attorney in Florida, and what he'll do, he'll go ahead and handle the probate and get paid after the property's closed.
But he only works in Florida, right?
Yeah, just Florida. But what the one that I think would be the easiest, especially if you don't want 3,000 leads and you want 200 or a smaller list, the ones that I'd probably work, the expired MLS and the properties that went to tax deed sale or are going to tax deed sale. So if it went to tax deed sale and they paid the delinquent amount, like this one here, this is probably vacant land, they paid it. Well, they were probably 2 years behind on the taxes at least. And Ethel here, this is a junky property, but Ethel here, she probably needs the money. She can't pay her taxes. And she finally came up with the $1,600. And now you're there trying to put money in her pocket. I would work that list, and I would work this expired MLS list. They want to sell, and that's where, and then it's just prospecting. That's where Dago Bierto came from. Here he is. And as I did my due diligence, I could see his tax history. I could see he tried to sell it. I could see he's been trying to sell it since for the last three or 4 years, and he hasn't been successful. So sometimes the person has issues and sometimes the property has issues. His property has issues because it has that easement in the back. But if I want to do a deal now, I would probably do these tax deed sales, especially if I go to May. And I can just go down the right-hand column and I'm looking for anything that says block of. You know, if there's anything here that has that, some months there are a lot more of them than other months. Or I look for the low dollar amount here in the middle, and usually the low dollar amounts are more likely vacant land. So something that's $20,000 is probably a house, but if it's a low dollar amount here, and it might not be a good month. Some months they do more houses, some, like here's one.
And those are ones that are going to be going to auction?
Yeah, May 7th.
Okay.
So if it's going in 2 weeks, you can do it. But if you like, here's the 1800 block of Bobby right here. And this may be the one, we looked at another one that was on this street. And here's another one, Willie Small here. He's going to tax deed sale. So it looks like he got it for $100 in 2002. Someone probably gifted him the property. This is another one, 30 by 140. This guy's going to lose his property here, and very quickly. It's probably, I'd Google Earth it right here. I can look at comps. I can look at the street, and I can do my due diligence that have wetlands, flood zones. You know, what are properties selling for there? Vacant land. I can go to the recorder's office and put his name in and see what other issues he has. But it's probably not Beverly Hills. This one here sold for $9,500. It's twice as large. $18,000. It's twice as large. on this, but this was 4 or 5 years ago. And if I want to look at the more recent ones, I'll just unclick these.
And what is your take on ones that are already have been to the auction, like the over-the-counter tax deeds?
Over the counter means that it went to auction and no one bidded on it. And usually no one bidded on it because there was problems with it. So I've only gone in and bought one over the counter. And that's why I just go in and I hand them a check. I got it for $4,000. I sold it to a builder for $15,900. And I've only found one since I've been doing this that made sense. But this
Okay.
one here we're looking at, we looked at the woman that had one on the same street. And hers was right here because here's the same, we're pulling up the same comps, 29,000, 10,000. These are the same comps that we were looking at before. So if you don't want to get too scattered, I'm trying to juggle 10 things and I can juggle 2. If I wanted to just keep it simple, maybe my marketing list is just the tax deed sales and I can market to the people that redeemed them. And they were in that situation because they were at least 2 years behind, but now they just wrote a check for $3,000. They couldn't even pay they couldn't pay their $200 a year tax, and now they owe $3,000. And I can come in with $6,000. I would do that, and that's the ones that we'll open it up again.
Okay.
If I wanted to keep it simple, I think if you did Escambia County and what we did, we went back 10 years and we went through every record, clicked on them one at a time. It took a while. We came up with a list of 330 people that had redeemed them. I'm going to go back a year and a half. We went through people that had redeemed them that still own them. So just the theory is if they're having problems with their credit card one time, they're probably going to be back in that situation again. So here's one that was redeemed some time ago. And I would see, okay, I would probably pass on this one because there's 5 owners. And I
just need to make sure that my county has access to this information.
Yeah, so that's why an example like Hillsborough County is good because it's similar to Escambia County. And so when I'm picking an area, I look at the census, I look at the population, then I run some statistics on PropStream to see are people buying and selling, and then I go to the appraiser's website to see what information is available. And so I'm looking for, and I'm going to close a bunch of these windows. And the things that I bookmarked on mine, I have the recorder's office, so I can do the search on the people. I have the appraiser's office bookmarked. I have the back taxes bookmarked, where I can build a larger list of back taxes. Paid, unpaid accounts. 44,000. I have the tax deed sales bookmarked right here. And if I have planning and zoning bookmarked, and I don't hit this regularly, but if I find out how it's zoned, I can pull up if it's zoned HDMU, and I'm thinking, what is HDMU? I just go to zoning regulations and I can get somewhere way down here and see what's allowed under each zoning regulation. What's rural residential? So if I've got someone that wants to put a mobile home on something, rural residential allows mobile homes. And I don't use this frequently. Rural mixed use, high density, what's low density residential? You don't need to know this. It's just a resource there. And if I have a question, I can't figure it out, I just call the county and ask them.
I should utilize my bookmarks more. I never use them.
Yeah, and I've got Google Earth Zone, so I want to look at the property and I just put it in here, whatever it is. This is one that had the easement that we looked at earlier. And so I can look very quickly, oh, this looks like a nice neighborhood. I can look very quickly, oh, it's got a sewer system, that's great. This is the lot right here. It's right there. And He's been behind on the taxes for 15 years, and the two right here sold for $20,000. And I don't know if it was for one or both, which I'd have to figure out, but great neighborhood.
And those trees wouldn't
The trees don't
make
make
you
it doesn't
shy
make any
away from
it doesn't make any difference to me. It could affect the value of the property, which affects the value of my offer.
Mhm.
So these trees are pretty skinny. It's not like big, huge pine trees
Right.
that are going to
Or oak
cost a lot
trees.
more. I don't know. I don't know. But when I'm negotiating, I would just say it's going to cost me $15,000 to clear it, and that's I'm just posturing in my negotiation.
Just
So,
gives you leverage in your negotiation.
you know, and I say, can you tell me if it has sewer or septic? And I already know that. But if they don't know, then I know they don't have any idea about what the property's worth. They really don't know. And if they say that they don't know, and I said, well, it's septic, I said, it's going to cost me $15,000, $20,000 to put in a septic system. And I see it's very wooded. It's going to cost approximately $15,000 to clear it. I'm just softening the position.
And also if it has sewer like that, it means it's got water or not necessarily.
Probably, but if I'm never sure, if I don't know, I just get vacant land doesn't usually have an address, but I just get the address of a house next door. I call the utility company and I just say, I'm looking at the property at whatever this is, Sussex, the 1100. I said, can you tell me if it's serviced by sewer or water or what utilities are available? And it's a 5-minute call. But we don't have to how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. Don't worry about absorbing all this. The way I would backtrack a little bit, I would just go to tax deed sale list and I would look at them and I'd use a tool like PropStream. I'd look at the appraiser records. I'd look at Google Earth. And then if you don't know, just bring it to this deal lab and we'll do it together. And we'll say, I would offer $6,000 for that. And then if they say no, just write it in a yellow pad or however you want to keep Excel, however you want to keep track of it. I'm not great at Excel. And then I would just say, okay, follow up with this guy June 2nd. Follow up with them November 3rd, right after he gets his tax bill. And if you wanted, you could use something like Pebble or you could handwrite it.
I think our reply has a CRM built in.
I think so. Or sometimes if we're just doing one at a time, I just use a letter like this with a real stamp and just write it.
Okay.
And I do that, and I try to get, I think these are skateboards, some kind of stamp. I just ask the guy for the biggest stamps they have. So use a letter like this and stamps like this. And if it's the same thing you keep sending out over and over again, we just have a $100 copier, but we use a yellow pad and we have all the information written in. And then we just put it in the copier and fill in the address in the little blank and the name. And you can't tell that it's a copy. It looks like it was handwritten.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that if I wanted to keep it simple, instead we've got these 14 niche lists, which is good. If I wanted to keep it simple and maybe we build a list of, if I went here from, I don't know, February to July, there's probably 25 on here. Here's one right here. This is going in July. I could go ahead and research it. See, Michael Trimble owns it. He bought it for $8,000 in 2002. It's going to tax deed sale. Just do a little bit of homework on it. If it made sense, we could skip trace them and call them. You could bring it to Deal Lab and we come up with an offer price.
Okay.
That'd be my suggestion. Anyway, I'll be back in 5 hours.
Okay, I probably won't be on the 6 o'clock or the, what is it, 4 o'clock your time?
Yeah, 4
Or
o'clock.
4 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock your time.
Yeah.
I won't make it to that one because I have to go out to work after this, but
Yeah,
I should be on next week.
Some of it's repetitive. The afternoon one is just to be here if people have deals to go over. And sometimes if they don't, then we just fill in the time. All righty, I'll see you guys later.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Michael.
you. Thank you. Bye.